some of it is, I'll recall some of what we talked about at lunch, but first of all, you were describing how you initially came up with the triangle. Why don't you tell just, if you would, a little bit of the story of coming up with the triangle itself?
Well, I have a lot of background in art. Like we looked at my studio and that gave you a couple of pictures. And so I've done art all my life, and in art you doodle a lot. You get on a certain idea and you just keep making combinations of it. And I combined that with doodling football plays and basketball fakes, where you fake one way and then the other way. And I was just doodling different ways of faking, and I don't know, about 30 pages later, or 29 pages later, I had the drama triangle, but it had a fourth point, which was the trickster. That's the person who's moving all the people around. But then I incorporated that into the triangle by using the arrows, going both ways, which people eventually eliminated those. And then I showed it there. I had it actually on my blackboard for about 2 years. I was using it with patients, and I showed it to Derek Byrne in the late 60s, and he said, write that up. People are going to be quoting you for 200 years. And,
they will, yeah.
So, but he also suggested that maybe I should have the victim at the top, because the victim pulls the strings in order to get the payoff. I said, yeah, the victim should be at the bottom. That's where they go. And it makes more sense to most people to have the victim at the bottom. And then instead of persecutor, he said, why don't you use aggressor? But I was thinking more in terms of movies where there's persecutors coming after people, because I have a lot of interest also in drama. My sister was a drama major at Catholic U in Washington, D.C., and I've done a lot of plays. I'm in Screen Actors Guild now, and so that's why I got interested in drama. So I wanted to have a persecutor there, and then a victim and a rescuer, like in a movie and a drama. And usually, the better the movies are, the more roles are switched, the more people play several roles. The person you think is your rescuer, you secretly might be the persecutor, and the one who's the victim might one day be the rescuer with all the answers. So I called it the drama triangle from my interest in movies and my interest in sports, different fakes. I just had 49er season tickets. So and I played a lot of basketball, won a couple MVPs, and Little League, took a little basketball league. The claim to fame is I once made 50 out of 50 free throws in a contest. Anyway,
one of the things that you shared when we were talking earlier is that as your work evolved with the drama triangle, that you've also, at times you'll relabel the persecutor to the, I talk about in The Power of Ted, that the persecutor can be a person, a condition, or a circumstance, and you had a different P word.
Predicament?
Yeah, predicament. So that, because I think about dramas, I think about movies, very often the persecutor is a character, but it can be a predicament. I think about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he found himself in all kinds of predicaments that were, in a sense, persecutors.
Well, predicaments created by the persecutors, or could be created by any of the other rules. Very early on of the triangle, I came up with the OK triangle, with the positive version of the triangle. And of course, I used victim. I try to keep the same letters to make it easier. So victim is vulnerable, and instead of rescuer, I used Lou Quinby's reaching out from his TA tutor. And then for persecutor, I used power or potency. I'm sort of mixing those. But then quickly I went to the compassion triangle, which is that basically everyone's all three roles at once. And when you understand that, then you understand the game, and you have a better chance of dealing with it.
And one of the things that in our conversation that I really got and see, again, the way you approached and the triangle emerged for you is that when you're in those roles, you're in the game, and that the way to get out of the triangle is to stop playing the game. Am I interpreting that right, or that because there are times, as we talked about, that being a rescuer may be a perfectly reasonable and appropriate action to take.
Originally, the theory position I took was, if it's a small R, it's a legitimate rescuer. But if it's a big R, it means you're in the game, which means you can wind up a victim. And even once I thought of it as a pinball machine, the persecutor, rescue, and victims, they all wind up down at the bottom anyway. But all along, there have been interest in escaping the drama triangle. And you've come up with the excellent empowerment dynamic, TED. I like the empowerment triangle.
Sure.
No, but you've got this excellent way out, which is very clever. I like the actually the creator, referring to Jesus, as the creator and also the servant and also the teacher, and there. And that's one of the best escapes I've ever seen from the Drawing Triangle. And people ask for them all the time. I use the compassion triangle as a way out, which you recognize all three roles. In the Persecutor corner, you take your own responsibility for creating the game. And then for the other person, you give appreciation for their efforts as the OK rescuer, and then give OK sympathy for the situation you put them in as a victim. But there's always a minimum of 10%. So in the compassion triangle, I usually draw the PRV with the 10% in the middle, and sometimes a plus on the persecutor, rescue, and victim side to show that there's an OK side to it. A lot of ways of doing that.
Well, and your description is very consistent with what I used to call the teacher, now called the challenger, and the servant becoming the rescuer, or excuse me, the coach. But the coach and challenger and creator sound very similar, and certainly have the same energy around it as a compassion triangle.
Same thing. And I like the CCC also. I like the things fitting like that.
Well, I just want to thank you and express my appreciation to you for the flash of insight that you had. We won't name the years, but quite some time ago, and the impact that I know, both personally and talk to people, that your triangle has had in their lives. And I am just honored that you chose to endorse the work, because I know that's not something that you take lightly or that you've done a lot of. Yeah. And so I just want to thank you and acknowledge you for that TED would not exist if it weren't for the Karpman Drama Triangle.
I think the purpose of, there are some people that they come up with the theory and they hold on to it real tight and really clamp onto it. I'll let it go. It's going out so many different directions. People are drawing the triangle so many different ways. I do like them to draw an equilateral triangle, because the switching distance from each point should be the same. But there's so many different versions of it out there, and you've got just about the best version out there. I haven't checked them all, but when I look in the Google references, there's like 15,000 references to my triangle, and once a week people are asking me to use the triangle in their article, and I'm glad I just let it go. It goes out there. People change around. I heard that Princess Di was using it as when she's in a dilemma. I forget just what role, but she uses the three roles in certain ways that are similar. I don't know where she learned it from or something, but she says it helps her get out of a stressful situation. And so it's used lots of places. I don't even know how it got called the Karpman Triangle. I think Eric Byrne sort of playfully, knowing that in medicine in surgery there's a Hasselbalch's triangle, a little square, little triangle area where the muscles part, and you can do an appendectomy there. And so he called the Karpman Triangle, and I think the Gouldings, a lot of people spread it all over the place. I don't know how it's spread.
It's really caught on.
Yeah. So
Well, great.
So it's useful, and that's what counts. And you've taken it further than I have, so I appreciate it and all your teaching and all.
Thank you.
Excellent work.
Well, I really appreciate having the opportunity to hang out with you for a little while and to have gotten the chance to meet Kathy. And
my pleasure.
yeah, thank you. Take care.
Okay, thank you.